Welcome to the Love, Laugh, Live chat show with the beautiful Dav Ubi and myself, Gurdial Garcha. Pyar karo, haso ta juk juk jiyo wala show.
So our show is all about creating and guiding you on how to manifest a more fulfilling life that you deserve and desire, and how to raise your consciousness through loving, laughing and living.
Yay!
So my name is Devinder Ruby. I'm a life and spiritual coach, and sitting next to me is my beautiful co-host.
And my name is Gurdial Garcha. I'm an empowerment and resilience coach.
So Gurdial, आज का topic here.
So today's topics, we've got a few little topics, but the main one to start off with is how does money affect relationships? So money, I know people say money is the root of all evil. So I don't know how true or not that is. That's a belief.
Limited belief.
But yeah, so we're going to discuss how does money affect relationships. I mean, how do you think it affects relationships if we start off?
Well, there's going to be the pros and cons.
Yeah.
And people tend to focus more on the cons, but I think there's pros as well. It does help to have a more fulfilling relationship as well, when we can, because money can take you to places, when it becomes easier to offload stresses with bills and things like that. But we can talk more into that later on.
Yeah.
So there's lots of ways that money affects relationships.
So I'll just say this first bit and then we'll carry on from there.
Yeah.
Studies have shown that couples who have similar spending habits, savings, goals and attitudes towards money are more likely to have a successful long-term relationship. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it does. It does help. Money does help to lessen the pressure and the stresses we have, because most of the problems from there, I don't have enough to go on holiday, I don't have enough to do a wedding, I don't have enough to do a course, and then you feel you're missing out in something in life, and then you blame the partner or you blame each other, then you're frustrated and kid chut diya and nikki gal te ladai ho jandi hai because you're frustrated, you can't do the things you really want to do, and you think the money is what's blocking the couples to have a really good relationship. So having financial freedom in relationship, you can do the things you want to do without feeling the pressure or the burden on each other.
I think like we can talk about like when we were younger, when we first got married, it was automatic that you just had one account, or it was an account where your husband's partner's money went in, and that paid all the bills, and I think it was much easier then, in terms of there weren't very many expenditures. People never really went out. There wasn't, the cinema wasn't a big thing. Community wasn't a big thing. So the main thing in those days really was just sort of family functions, weddings, parties.
And culture.
Yeah, so there wasn't that thing. Fashion wasn't a big thing. Makeup wasn't a big thing. Going out, clubbing or any of those things, none of those things existed.
No,
so that was much easier to handle. So the money issue wasn't that big a thing, and people just kind of went along with it. Whereas I think now, if I think about my children or even us, we want to be able to go on really good holidays, we want to be able to buy nice clothes, handbags, go out with our friends for coffees or lunch or afternoon tea, whatever you want to go on nice trips. There's so much that people now want to do compared to what was happening in those days. Now we all want our own car, we want our own independence, we want to be able to have money to spend on what we want independently of our partner. So those differences in terms of lifestyle are actually massive. But one thing I will say, I feel like this generation, our children's generation, they are much more savvy when it comes to money. They do have like budgets, and they have an idea of what they're going to spend where, here, there, and hopefully they do have a joint account and they have two separate accounts. So I don't know what you think about that.
No, I agree to what you were saying earlier on, because when a girl and boy get to know each other, or just through marriage as well, it wasn't about being very materialistic. It's more about simple things, more about romance and sending each other, singing songs or writing letters or rose, and those are very simple things, but that's how relationships sort of like how it just was expressed.
Old Hindi movies, if I think about it.
But now it's very materialistic. It's not much more on the emotions and on the loving sort of romance things. It's very materialistic. It's about your appearance, and you got to be looking good. You got to be have enough to treat them on Valentine's, get their birthdays or Christmas and all sorts. You got to have that money to really wow the girl or the guy that you are financially, stable. And so it is so different now from how it used to be. But they started just meeting.
It was just, I think it was just about being a good
community
boy.
Or meeting at the
just
park.
Being a good boy.
It didn't have to be a fancy restaurant.
And I don't think finance mattered then. People weren't looking at your income. They were just looking at a decent boy that would bring goodness to your family. That was all that mattered. But now I think people look at a lot more things in terms of, getting married and things.
Well, I think what it was, the boy was still probably in the family dynamics where he'll still get the parents' support financially. So then the girl would get married into that family thinking, well, I'm going to be financially supported. I got him and his family, So really, to the sade parents, sade vaste ko rishta labdunde sige, they used to actually first check, can they support our daughter? So we are actually already feeling like, first our parents supported us, they financially supported us, and now we always lived codependent on our parents, and now our time we live in codependent on your husband and their family. So we women always felt sort of like our life, our happiness, it depended on living on survival, that we need someone else to clothe us and feed us, have a roof over our head. That's very like another disempowering way to live, but that's also made women inferior, and the men feel that they need us, so men felt like superior, that the women need us, and
for financial
reasons, that they cannot survive without us. So that's a really, I suppose it's been going on for many generations, where women felt like you need to be down here and make sure the families, you got to look after them because they're going to feed you. You got to make sure they get money, because without that they're not going to support you financially, and they probably don't want to know you. So what we're going to do, we can't support you all our lives, so you got to do what your husband says, their family says, so they can feed you and clothe you. It's quite, actually, if you think about it, it's quite,
I think it's a bit like pass the parcel. That's how I always used to think about it. But first you're your parents' responsibility, and now you're your in-laws' responsibility.
So where's the love in it? I was thinking about
love doesn't actually come into it. I don't think it's about that. But in terms of the money, I just feel like if you've gone from your family where, in your situation and in mine, you got what you wanted from your parents. You didn't really have to think about it. But then you go into a different family, we're talking about anybody. All of a sudden, you can't just ask for something and have it like that. There's a lot more thought that goes into it, because your parents loved you just as you were, and they wanted to give you whatever you wanted. But then when you've gone into a different family, the dynamics change, because all of a sudden, you've got to ask or something, within that, because you don't know each other well enough to just assume that will happen. And that's the difference. That relationship's got to grow to the point where you can just have whatever you want. But then if I've got the money and you haven't, what does that mean? It means I'm in a really, really strong position of power, because it's almost like a parent-child. I will give you money if I feel like giving you money. So it is very disempowering, and this is why it's important.
So money is the main factor that affects all relationships. So I mean, we're going to talk about a woman's perspective and a man's perspective. We'll talk about it, how it affects both the genders. But I would think now, I think the biggest, I suppose, for fear for men is that women are not so codependent on them, because aajkal the ladies tend to be, the new generation, they're quite self-reliant, they're more financially stable, they would happily have their car, they have their jobs, they have their career, they're really invested all their, you know, studying and everything, and they probably, some of them even will have their own property. So this is where now the men will feel like, she's not dependent on me. And men like, this is maybe a primal instinct of thinking, men do like to be needed, to be wanted, gives them a sense of importance. It's such a very masculine thing.
And power.
Because men are always about, they're the ones are here to protect and provide. It's a masculine thing, it's just an animal thing. So, but if they feel like, oh, who am I providing for? You know, if, you know, she doesn't really need, you know, she can actually, is quite self-reliant, she doesn't need me to provide. So this is where a man would probably think that, what is my worth then? You know, how important am I to this relationship? I can't be that important. Especially if you've been programmed hardwired and he's seen his parents and grandparents always providing for the family, and then all of a sudden a guy nowadays thinking, well, my parents, my dad had an importance, my granddad and pardada or pichide, they all had this importance, and now he doesn't feel that important, that my wife. And another thing, she won't agree to everything I say, like Palang we had to, because we'll be afraid of being separated or abandoned, or they don't want to know us, and that's the most scariest thing for a woman. But now a woman she can survive on her own. So a man will think, well, she doesn't need me that much and she can leave whenever she wants to. So I can't forcefully impose anything on her. So there's a possibility that she can just give up on this relationship and go and Saudi besti honia. So the man will feel like, I wasn't man enough to hold on to this relationship. It has changed. Okay, the whole relationship dynamics have changed because the money has that much impact on people's relationships. Now women can also feel superior, just as equal, that they don't need a man to provide for them or have a roof over their head. They can do it on their own.
And this is why it's really, really important. I personally think, this is my own personal opinion, that in most situations it is good if the man earns more than the woman. It doesn't have to be a lot, but I just feel like for that man to feel that little bit more secure in himself, it's not about the woman, that he feels like, you know, his masculine energy, bringing that into the relationship, for him to feel more self-worth, that he feels that he needs to be going back to the primal instinct of, I'm the provider. So that sort of role is really, really hardwired into us, well, into men more than women. And also, if not that, then at least be open to understanding that my wife does have a really good job, or my partner, whichever way you look at it. She works really hard, she earns really good money, then why shouldn't she earn as much as she does? So there can be a role reversal where the man may not do as much work as the woman because her job's better. She might be, I don't know, a consultant or a pilot or whatever, and you know, and he's secure in that, he's happy in that, because at the end of the day, the end goal is that we're going to go on holidays together, our children are going to have a better lifestyle, our home is going to be better, we're going to be able to enjoy life more, because when we put our incomes together, you know, our life is just going to be so much better. But if the man does have the insecurity, oh, she earns more than I do, so I don't feel that good about myself, then that's where the problems will definitely occur, because it's about making, it's that disparity, isn't it? Not being able to get over the fact that she earns more or she can earn more. But the thing is, you either celebrate that or you don't. You know, you can either celebrate the fact that, oh my God, you know, my wife or my partner works so hard, they've done so well for themselves. And you know what, I'm so lucky to be in this relationship where we share everything, and our relationship is growing because we're able to do so many things because of our joint income. But if it comes from a place of insecurity where she's earning more than me, you know, I'm not really a man, people are taking the mick out of me because I'm not, you know, earning more.
Yeah, you're living off your wife.
Yeah, you're living, and that's a horrible thing.
I know.
Or you're living off your wife and things like that, because, you know, we all judge, unfortunately, and not in a kind way. So that's that is definitely something that will come into the relationship. If he's not strong enough to be able to say to people, no, actually that's not how our relationship works, we're happy where we are. Not that we need to justify that to anybody. You know, what happens within any relationship is their business. But that's one side of it. Another side is in terms of financial independence. You know, if a woman comes into a marriage where the man is earning and she's not earning, there is going to be, naturally there's going to be control. It doesn't really matter whether the woman's earning and the man isn't. It's about having the power, because money is power. It is, whichever way you look at it, it means I can do what I want to do because I'm earning that money. I have the right to that money. So if I want to share that money with you, that's my choice. And this is where I would personally always encourage women to have their own income, their own job, part-time, full-time, whatever works for the family. Because having your own money means that if the relationship, unfortunately, you know, things happen. If you can't continue with the relationship, at least you've got something to fall back on. Because the reason why women and men, you know, whichever way you want to look at it, stay in unhealthy relationships is because of money. Because they can't go anywhere, because they've got nowhere to go, or they don't want to live in some high-rise flat somewhere, when they're used to living in such a beautiful home that they've made together. So the alternative is worse than staying where they are. And this is why financial independence right from the beginning is so important, not just for the woman but for the children, for them to see that both parents are working, they both have financial independence, and they can do whatever they want in terms of their own lives. So it's important as role models, I feel.
Yeah. So if you just think about it, like let's say the woman earns more than her partner, I think if they're living in a situation where they're away from the family's
dynamics,
and they're just living on their own, that would work, it'd be fine. But I think for a man, he won't find that so humiliating. But I think if they're still living in the family dynamics, then it's the family would probably make the guy feel a bit humiliated, thinking, oh my God, do I have the wife, though, you know, you're living on her wages or whatever. So it depends the circumstances, I feel. And then it works, you know, Ajkal, you do find the husbands and the partners, they're happy for their wives to continue. If their wives are doing so well, and they want to go back to work, let's say after they had the child, some men will stay at home and look after the child.
Which is great.
I think it's brilliant. So it's comes down to how much does the husband and wife really love and value and respect each other. It's going to be on everybody's unique relationship and their own way of thinking.
But I think the man's got to be really strong enough to be able to face the flack that he will naturally get. Because as much as we've evolved to that point, again, like you've just said,
I mean, do you know anyone?
I don't know anybody personally. I just don't. I think it would happen not so much in the Asian community. I don't know anybody in the Asian community where that's happened, but I know that it's happened within like like English people or other cultures. It's happened. And if they're strong enough to do that, then I don't see why there's any reason not to do that.
If it works.
But again, it's not something that I'm aware of.
I mean, the woman's very, very driven for her career. She's doing so well, and it's, you know, it's keeping a roof over their head. But this, I can't imagine this happening, let's say 20, 30, 40 years ago. I mean, it's like this movie we watched, Purani Movie Guide. Remember Guide with Devanand, and they're so much in love with each other. It was Vahida Rahman, and so they got into a relationship, and वो काफी मशहूर होने लगी थी with her singing and dancing. ਪਹਿਲਾਂ they were very supportive. He was helping her because he knew she had this talent. And afterwards realised she got so famous and she was getting all the attention, and that's what caused a rift in their relationship. He started to feel jealous, he started to feel like he's not important, and that's what caused the rift in their relationship. It's I think it's an Indian thing, so I think our Indian men or Asian men, I don't probably have another.
I think it can happen anywhere.
But I think he felt humiliated and felt so embarrassed that this lady he's in love with, and everybody's around her, and he's like in the back now. So I remember that movie even then, but yet she still loved him so much. और अन्ना प्यार करती सीगी, and but also she had so much love and passion for her singing and dancing. So it puts you in that situation. What shall I do? And he started, started squandering her money, and drinking, and all this sort of stuff, throwing her money away.
But I do think, if women or even men, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you earn so much money, it does cause problems.
Yeah.
If even if a man is earning so much money, spending so much time doing his job, and then the woman's at home, not enjoying her life as much because he's out there having his career and everything, and or the woman is, it causes issues, because then you get the issue not only about the money, but about not spending enough time with each other, and also you will be, I think a lot of women are divorced because the career and the family, it's such a difficult balancing act where you can have a very, very successful career and be like because we judge people in that sense. We'll say, well, don't you want to stay at home, don't you want to, because there are people who feel insecure about them doing that. So the money, in terms of they will cause issues within that relationship, even though it's not their relationship, but they will try and guilt trip people as if to say, well, don't you want to settle down and have children? So they want to bring the woman down or the man to say, well, you've earned enough money now. So very few people will actually celebrate money, with a lot of money within a relationship, because people feel insecure that they're not earning that much money. So it kind of happens, and there's certain conversations that you just can't have because money makes people feel uncomfortable. If I'm walking around, not that I am, with a Gucci bag or a different Gucci bag, just for instance, every week, and not you, but anybody else is walking with just a cheap, without saying anything, that's caused a problem.
It does. Do
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So in any relationship, I mean, I know of people who, they go out to a restaurant, they'll insist on paying for the whole, and some people might be okay with that and think, well, I'm getting a free meal and that's okay. But for others, it might feel like, does that mean I can't afford to pay for my meal? So it all depends on how you feel, your own self-worth in that situation. But again, I think where men decide to stay at home, I think the flack from other people, not from their family, it actually disrupts the relationship more in terms of the money than actually what's happening between the husband and wife.
Gosh.
Or the partners or whoever.
Yeah.
But I think our children have to be financially independent, because I just think it's so important.
Especially girls,
definitely.
So they never feel like they're in a relationship only
but
because
that scares people. That scares
I know
guys.
it scares them.
It definitely does.
But most of the women for so many years only been in a relationship. There's no love, there's no respect, there's no harmony, there's no peace, there's no fun, there's no joy, there's no intimacy. Only because they're just depending on just a roof over their head. But it's not a solid, genuine, pure love. So, but then also you hear stories about that women want to come into this country, they just use the men, just because there's no loving relationship, but they just use the men that they'll financially just bring them over and support them. But there's no loving relationship. So when something happens, when they've already got an opportunity to get out of the relationship, they do when they got hands on the money. So there's a lot of that. So the men get used as well, and women. So it's happening both ways. This is how much paise adak in a relationship the impact ho raha every time. So so you realize that in a relationship, is it really true? It's just a lot of codependency, and it's what really drives a relationship is the money. That's what really keeps a relationship going. And there's a lot of then it's things like if I have a divorce, if I get out of this, I'm going to make such a big loss for the men as well, because the women will take half of my stuff. So just because you don't want to, it could work both ways. I want to keep, in order to keep all of this, I've got to stay in this relationship I'm not even happy with. So you're not happy in a relationship, that unhappiness, that vibe will go on to the children. and they will never understand the true meaning of sincere, loyal relationship, because they will pick up the vibes from a very young age. And you're living in that same house under the same roof, you are going to understand there's not real love here. It's just frustration, really, and there's a lot of banda khij and there's a lot of irritation because not genuinely happy.
And going back to you know, financial independence, I think some people just go into a relationship and not think about money enough. You know, I just think it's so important that a woman and a man have their own accounts. Steve Harvey said this. I mean, I did watch this program and I really thought about it, you know, that men and women, whichever way the relationship, they should have their own money. You know, I don't want to be able to, you know, just imagine we have a joint statement and you might say to me, well, you know, whoever, well, you went out 3 times last week, you spent this much money there and there.
Then why are you stopping me going?
Do you know what I mean? So I should be able to, as long as we're both okay with what we're doing and there's trust and love there, I should be able to do that. But if a statement comes along and then I might say, well, you've spent this much, you've spent this much. No. Okay, so a chunk should go into a joint account which covers all the bills, the holidays, the children, this and this. So that's where, you know, a certain amount. But if my husband or my partner, whoever, earns more than me, then naturally you would think that they would want to put more into the joint account so that it just makes it fair. But obviously we're not going to go down to the pennies and the pounds because that just gets petty. And I know there's people out there who do that. But then you've got your own account where you spend money, where you don't have to answer to anybody. If I feel like going to meet one of my friends for a coffee and I might have a, I don't know, 3-course meal with it, that's my choice because I've earned that money. I've gone out, I've worked for a whole week, so I should be able to spend some of that money on what I want to do. Or if I go shopping and I want to buy myself a dress or whatever, I should be able to do that without feeling that somebody's going to say something to me. Well, why did you buy that dress? You've got 20 dresses already in the cupboard.
You hear
that kind of conversation. Or, well, you've got 20 pairs of shoes, why do you need one more? Well, trust me, women need more of everything. So that's just got to be a given. But I'm talking about the uncomfortable conversations that you don't need to have. You know, if I want to give one of my children some money, just because I feel like doing it, I want to do that. I mean, I will give you a true story about my mother-in-law. This is what I know. I mean, obviously, she's not here anymore, but she saved money out of the money that my father-in-law, and she shared that money with all of her children. But nobody knew about it, but that's what she wanted to do. And I think that's a beautiful thing that most parents, especially mums, I think, would want to do. They'd want to leave some money for their children. So what's wrong with that? But it's a shame if you're doing it secretly, because you know maybe you're kind of not spending as much on yourself because you're thinking about the next generation. But I just think, well, why not? You know, they've both worked, but she wanted to leave a bit of a legacy, so who knows why she did it. But for me personally, I think everybody should have their own money, because it's a sense of power as well as security and confidence, knowing that you know what, I don't have to ask anybody if I want to go and buy that pair of whatever it is. I don't have to ask anybody.
But it seems silly that ਤੁਸੀਂ 40-50 ਸਾਲ ਦੇ ਹੋ ਗਏ and you're still having to ask. You know, ਅਮਾ ਚੀਜ਼ ਲੈਣੀ ਆ, you know. You feel like ਇੰਨੀ ਥੋੜੀ ਕਦਰ ਤਾਂ ਹੋਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ, self-respect, that you can buy things without having to ask.
And also, you're not a child, you know. Children ask their parents for money. I understand that while they're young. But as grown adults, financial independence, not just for that, is really, really important. And,
I mean,
and it comes from a good place.
I knew a friend that she liked buying things for herself. She did. And then her husband,
like most women.
But her husband would often sort of like say, but is he Lord Heg? You know, only buy it. Do you need it? Do you need it?
That is the funniest question.
Do you need this? Ask. And then she would find that she'll get lectured anyway, and then she finds that delivery that there's like really silly things like garden leeches, horse pipe, or this and that, or it's just faulty चीज़ां. So you're thinking, well, do you really need this? Problem.
That's it.
Why are you ordering this stuff? You say to me like, we should be a little bit careful. If you don't need it, there's no point in getting it. But why are you getting all this stuff? Because of course, so that's where the problem lies. But if you had your own money, then, but even then, but even if you had your own money, say account, thinking, but they still find a way. So now then, do you really need that?
Nobody needs anything. It's a want.
No.
I think it's a want.
It's a want, but then it's a treat.
See,
sometimes you want to treat yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it's just, you don't have to depend on somebody else to buy you a present. Somebody just want to treat yourself.
And I think, when you're having that conversation, if someone even says that to you, do you really need that? I'm thinking to myself, that's not a conversation I want to have.
I'm deserving of it.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't feel as a grown adult or any grown adult should have to justify what they're spending on. I mean, obviously, the money's going into the account where all of the bills are covered. The necessary things are done. Yeah. So, and then you've got your own money, savings and whatever, So you should be able to do that. I'm not saying that, go gambling or spend all your money on the lottery. Common sense, there's got to be common sense. And but I still think that, everybody who works so hard. And even if the people don't, you might be on a pension or on benefits or whatever, out of that money, some of it, you want to be able to feel good and buy something. I mean, I know this lady that goes into the shop, and this one of these shops. She does not have much money, but she likes to treat herself to a coffee. Yeah. And I just think, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
She's making a sacrifice somewhere just to be able to pay for a coffee. And we wouldn't even think twice about that, most people. But I'm just thinking, well, if that's what makes her happy, then why not? But nobody should be able to say, well, do you really need that coffee?
Yeah.
Why can't you spend that on, I don't know, dog food or whatever? But
I know.
You shouldn't have to be able to justify where that money goes.
I mean, I'm talking about my dad worked so hard. Obviously, most of our dads did because, biyah karna, he used to work overtime and everything. And he worked so hard to the point that he missed a lot of opportunities of doing things and thinking that when I retire, although fir asi enjoy karange, travel the world. But unfortunately, by the time he came to retirement, my mom felt really ill, so he never got to things he wanted to do, but saving all that time and things that he could have done. And I remember my dad saying to me, he sat me down, he goes, I'm telling you now, this is what I've learned from my mistake, that tusi kamando si naal di naal kharchi jao. He goes, don't wait, look, I waited all this time and I should have been enjoying it as I was earning. So that's what he said to me before he suddenly passed away as well. And he's get to and I remember those, like the way he sat down, he called me into the room with Tibet, and me and my brother, we sat there. He goes, this is what I've learned through my life. And he said that just before he went, that don't waste your time, enjoy your life as you go along. Si kamao, nani kharcho, nani enjoy karo, don't save it for later on. And he learned that from his mistake, that enjoy it with your family while you can. So this is what, even now, money is good. It's not, we shouldn't have a bad relationship with money. Money is there to enhance our enjoyment, our experience in this life, on this planet, to enjoy all the pleasures of life, and not to think that this is competition. It's not to think money is bad. It's not here to corrupt anyone. It's just another form of energy, and it just looks like money. But have a good relationship with it, and let that good relationship with the money provide a good relationship with your partner
and your children. I mean, I still remember when the children were young, they used to have everything that they wanted, but at the same time there was an expectation that they would help around the house and stuff like that. So they understood that yes, they got to have what they wanted in terms of money, but there was also some kind of discipline there, that it wasn't like an easy come or just throw the money at the children and say, well, you can have whatever you want. They understood the value of money in terms of how hard we worked for it, so they appreciated it. Because sometimes we fall into the trap of spoiling our children, giving them so much money that they don't actually value it, and they think, oh, our parents are always going to be able to give us that much money, but that's not the truth, because money is not what children want or need as much. What they really want is your attention. But sometimes we think that the money and the gifts and, you know, expensive things is what's going to make them happy, but the money doesn't make them happy. It's your attention, your time, and actually going out doing things together, which also costs money, but in a different way, and that is actually more valuable than having that money within that relationship, just to kind of get over the fact that you don't have the time, or you're not willing to take the time out to spend with your children.
But in this world, having money is good. I'm not going to deny, I like money.
Oh yeah.
You know, who doesn't like money?
I love it.
So it's, when we come, like, if we talk about it on a spiritual aspect now, we're talking on practical thing. If you get spiritual aspect, is you understand how the universal laws work. It's whatever experience we're having with our partners and our relationship with money, you can have that same relationship with your partner, because it's just same belief. So if you think money is hard to get, it causes problems, the story you tell about money. So whatever's playing out in your life now regarding your relationship, and it's the story you're telling. So now we know our life is created and manifests depending on what story we keep repeating in our mind. So if nothing out there is coming, you're not getting the harmony and the joy in your relationship, and you feel that the money seems to be problem that's not allowing you to do the things together, and there's a lot of restrictions, then change your story, and you keep on saying that story until it eventually conforms into that ideal image, you know, reflected back the story you're telling. So I would say, like, oh, the more money I receive, which comes to me so easily, it actually makes my relationship with my partner even more loving and fun. That's the story you keep repeating. And you keep on saying it and saying it, but it become like a mantra, and eventually it will conform, become a tangible thing, and you actually are experiencing it. And you're thinking, what story I was telling before, that it became an automatic thing. Now I'm consciously going to start telling a story. Well, you know, the more money that comes to me very easily, so you keep saying, the more money that comes to me very easily, and now I realize the more my relationship with a partner is becoming more loving and fun and so easy. So that's the story you got to tell.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you could say other things as well, like, oh, I just feel so blessed. I'm so lucky, you know, in every area of my life, and that just covers everything. I know you've just said that specifically about money, but sometimes just saying thank you for, you know, this, being so grateful for every single thing that you have. You will find, and this is in my experience, or the people that I know, the more you're grateful for what you've got, and that can be money, relationships, children, grandchildren, whatever it is, or properties, whatever it is, you just get more of it. But the problem is people don't believe it. They think, oh no, that's not really how it works. But in my experience, it does. You just have to be in such a good place and so grateful for what you already have, no matter how small. You know, it does grow. I mean, I remember when, you know, there were times when I know of a friend who said she never looked at her account. You know, she used to never look at her account. She used to just spend, and not stupidly, I mean thousands and thousands, but she used to just buy what she wanted to buy, and she still had money left over in her account. But then there was her friend who was watching every penny in her account, and she always complained she never had enough. So it's always what you're thinking on, because she was constantly focusing on, you know, she'd be saying something like, oh, you know, to my other friend, oh, I don't even know how you do that. How do you always go out? Where do you get the money from? This and this. But it was a choice, because one of the friends said that she never even looked in her account. She just spent, not, like I said, not stupidly, but within a limit. But the other one was so like micro focused on her expenditure and stuff, never felt like there was ever enough money. Oh, well, I can't afford this, I can't afford that. And that was constantly playing. And you know, like your dad said, and I think that's such an important thing, to enjoy your life as you go along. Because sometimes we wait until we're 60, 70, and so many people just, unfortunately, never get to enjoy anything of the effort that they made all those years. You know, that's not, for me, that's not what life is. And I know that throughout my life, I've enjoyed it as I've gone along, and money's always sorted itself out.
But you also got to remember, this is so important as well, that if you're in a relationship, partnership, you shouldn't be just trying to think, I need to earn some money because I feel guilty I'm not providing. because even that guilt is a block, is a lack mentality. And what you always find, it's a low vibration, that you would always find there's some lack, there's something, and then you feel bad and you feel guilty, and then you feel like I'm not good enough, my partner's going to think that I'm not contributing, and I feel like I'm letting them down, I'm failing. You've got to really be careful that you don't come from a place of guilt. Guilt is a very low vibration. You just got to say, even if you said that is so much you've got to be grateful for, and you're just focusing on that and take your feelings away from the guilt. That's when you will attract effortlessly coming to you. And don't think you have to support your partner through guilt. You know, you could support your partner just being happy, or effortlessly you'll come. This is how just the law works.
You've just said that about roti. I mean, my grandma, rest her beautiful soul, she used to say, you know, roti tusi ek ghar de vich khavo, shanti de naal khavo, with love, gratefulness.
That's rich.
That is rich. That is being wealth. Rich. Because some people can have so much different kinds of food but not actually appreciate it or even be happy, and they won't even be able to, you know, कहंदे भी जिथे तुसी रोटी प्यार ना खा सकदे हैं, you know, शांति दे नाल and with love. You can make it with love, eat it with love. Or कोई रीस नहीं. There is nothing like that. You know, so
that's real abundance.
And that's actually, and she used to say, this is one thing, she used to say, पैसे हत्थां दी मैल आ. It should just go in and out, in and out. It shouldn't be something that you hold on to, because there are so many people out there who just really, really attached to money, but they that's all they've got. They've just got money. But what about using that, not just for themselves, for their family, their extended family, and for it to go to some good? I think that is so important, and before you know it, you'll get even more. But some people, you know, I used to work in a building society. They would, like, you could see it almost like, I don't know, I felt like they were so like focused on this money. It was crazy. They never actually enjoyed it.
That's coming from a lack mentality. You know, they always kartana pejo or something, I could lose this. And that's not a very healthy relationship with the money. Can you imagine doing that with a person and you're holding on to them, clinging on to them? That person actually feels suffocated. The money is same, it's energy, it just is in a different form, so the money feels suffocated, so actually it wants to run away from that person, it wants to escape. And just with a person, if you're doing the same with a person, if you're clinging on to them, they feel abroad and they just want to get away and distance. So this is the same relationship we have with money, we could have with ourselves, most importantly, and then that will be have with everybody else in our relationships.
And also, if you think about money is there for you to enjoy. You know, it's not.
And relationships.
Everything is there for you to enjoy. But if that money is just locked up somewhere, and you know, you've been saving forever, right up until you're 70, 80, 90, whatever the age, you've never enjoyed it. You know, for you it's just paper. And then your children are going to get to enjoy it, or your grandchildren. So what have you achieved? You know, just to save it or get so much interest on it and things like that. You've actually not lived your life. You have just literally got money in one hand and put it in a different place. You've never actually got to the point where you've enjoyed it, or gone out and done something, traveled, or eaten at a nice restaurant, whatever it is that you enjoy doing. You know, we're not here to judge, but that's what money is. Money is there to enhance your life and not make you feel like it shouldn't be an attachment, because you're going to lose it one day anyway. Like we're
it's our relationships, everything is just temporary, but we're here to just enjoy and not get attached to it, because we know but all we can take with us is the wonderful experiences we had. And anything money, I always think as Lakshmi, is a goddess, so to see, respect it and honor it and love it, and not to feel like this is something that's evil. You know, money is not meant to be evil, nothing's meant to be evil. You know, it's just to see kere intention de naal to see paise use karte hain, so I can use that same money to really make my relationship so beautiful with my partner. Or I can go into the mentality of, you know, I need to show my power, or the man needs to show their power. You know, I'm the one who provides, and I'm the one that needs to be respected. And so that is just showing superiority. It's got to show the nimrata and respect for everyone. So money does, yes, money does has a lot of impact on relationships, and but it depends to see kinni awareness or kinni soji aa gaya that you can actually use that money to enhance the relationship, or you can use that money to destroy the relationship. It depends on your awareness.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you know, sometimes I do think sometimes where people really hold on to the money and think, you know what, I don't want I don't want to share this money, I want it to just be for me and my savings, this and that. I don't know, but I feel like God in some way, that money will leave you. But I don't know whether the bank will kind of crash or something, but sometimes that money will come away from you. And you, even though we think, you know what, it's in a safe, secure place, nobody's going to have access to it, but sometimes you end up paying out more than what you've actually saved. Because your mentality is that I want to hold on to it, because the reality is you can't hold on to anything, and money is the same as everything else. You can't hold on to it. So do something which is going to bring you joy, or give it to some poor people, or whatever you want to do. That is where the real joy is, where you're giving it away. Not holding on to it. Holding on to anything doesn't make it joyful. Sharing it, seeing that the positivity of you doing something. I mean, I can quickly use somebody that we had as one of our events that we did, and this person wanted so much money, but actually he wanted it to pay for his grandson's university fees. And we thought, well, what a beautiful thing to do. You know, he was a great singer, and he didn't want to use it for himself. But he could have easily thought, well, that's my money, I'm going to use that money for myself. But he didn't.
He put it to good value.
But think about that. If you think about it in a beautiful way, he's doing so much good for his grandchild, because he's educating them, he's helping them to further their education, and that money will come back to him in so many ways, because that child will never forget that his granddad had put that money to such good use. So I think that's such a beautiful thing to do, if you're in that place to do it. And what does it cost you at the end of the day? Yeah, and it's like you said, every action has its consequence. So if you're putting your money to good use, then you'll find that you'll get more money like that to put it into more good use, and it'll come back to you. And when you're doing anything good use, autonomy, you get the rewards of that. You know, so if you took money to bad use, you obviously have to deal with the consequences of that. And every action, you will get the back, exactly what you put in, you'll get it back. And also, your relationship with money will affect your children. Your children will watch how you deal with money. So if you deal with it in a very balanced way, where yes, we pay for our bills, we have our holidays, we have a nice car, but we also want to be able to save for your future or for our future, pensions or whatever, those kind of things, then that's a really healthy, balanced way of looking at money, because it's providing you for the absolute essentials. It's providing you with you know, your luxuries in terms of holidays, clothes, or whatever it is that you want. But it's also providing you security in sense of you know, when a rainy day, you know, God knows it rains a lot in this country, so you know, the roof could you know, collapse or whatever. So money is so important, but it's a balanced approach, and to enjoy it as well. You know, get a takeaway, do whatever it makes you happy, spend a bit on the kids and this and this, and spoil yourself. It should just be a very normal, natural, fluid way of looking at money. That's the way I would like to think of it.
So recently we did these big events, and we're thinking, how are we going to do these events? Where are we financially? How are we going to get this all playing out?
Where do we get the money from?
Yeah, we get the money from. But because we had good intentions of doing these events, and we're doing it for a good cause, when we do something for a good cause, ape, you know, Paramatma, you know, we'll find, you know, resources that in situations where money does come to you like that. It all depends. It always depends at what intentions you want to do, whatever you want to do, and we always say, oh, somehow it will just work out. And your words you speak, and it has a very powerful, you know, impact on whatever you're doing. So just say, I don't know, something's telling us to do these events. I don't know how we're going to do it financially, but somehow it's going to work out. And it did. it worked out so beautifully in ways we didn't even imagine. You're thinking, "Akida ho gaya."
I mean, the last event we did, which was to raise money for a waterhole in Africa, we're so blessed in the way that it all happened. You know, all the tickets were sold out, but we actually not only managed to get a waterhole, but saved the sight of so many, 48 people, was it?
Yeah, 48 people.
Yeah.
They got their eyesight back.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. They just found its way to us because we had good intentions.
Yeah.
So
and that's a great legacy.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So we feel so blessed, and Paramatma will support you if you have good intentions. Have a good relationship with money. And money is also that's Rab exists. There's no place Rab doesn't exist. So give it a lot of love and respect. And that money will give us a lot of love and respect in our relationships.
And share it out.
Share it out.
Yeah.
Good
and
things.
Enjoy it. So I hope you really enjoyed this program, all about how does money affect relationships. So thank you again, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care, and lots of love.